burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go.
We can't do this anymore. What the fuck are you two doing?
What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean?
What do I mean? You two are not together. It's not normal, okay? You guys have been separated for 6 months. You're getting divorced, all right? And you spend every day together hanging out as if like it's no big deal. Guess what? It's fucking weird.
Beth, I don't think this is the...
No, tell them what you think. Just
All right,
stick up
you
for
know what?
yourself.
Let's not play charades. It's fucking weird.
There's no charades,
No
being
charades?
played here.
No charading?
No. We are separated and we're friends. You guys should be happy. We used to fight all the time. We don't anymore.
Yeah, you should be thrilled. You don't have to choose sides. It's the perfect breakup.
Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the topic of letting go, and specifically around not just the psychological angle, which I feel like is the most prominent one to talk about in terms of letting go and ability to let go, but also so much the social context. I feel like this is something that gets missed, and I was thinking about it because of the not even the difficulty of setting a boundary, but almost that feeling that even when you set a boundary and you decide not to have somebody in your life anymore, it just feels like we are so accessible these days because of the social networking, because of the cell phones. It kind of feels like, yeah, like even if you voice it and you have an agreement with someone, at the same time I feel it never feels that strong, and it feels like it's always continuous. So, and I just thought about that, and I thought about that in the context of how it must have felt back in the day. I witnessed myself when I was younger and in my teenage years as well, like not having so much social media and not being so accessible in terms of like, sure, I had maybe a cell phone, but you know, just it would have been much harder to find me and much harder to access me if you just know my full name, for instance. And now it almost feels like, because of and the irony is I'm recording a video and I have a channel and I do have all this presence too, and I'm very much aware of it, but I guess that kind of exposure is something that I'm realizing that generations before us really didn't have. And on one hand it's a blessing, but on the other hand I really want to talk about that impact on letting go and how it kind of creates our inability to let go, kind of the doors that are constantly open. And I even would say it feels like there is no doors anymore. It's just pathways. And why I say that is really thinking about an article by a philosopher called, full name is Giles Deleuze. And the article I read quite a while ago, actually, in academia. It might have been like 4 or 5 years now. And it talked about the societies of control, and actually she defines disciplinary societies as something of the past, and I think specifically around like 19th, maybe 20th century, but I think yeah, like 19th, 18th century. And she talks about the transitions which were very clear cut and very like clear enclosures from one place to another, from family to the school, and school as its own unit, it's its own boundary, its own kind of community. And then she gives example of factories and how factory itself as well was like a unit of capitalism, but it's a very like enclosed place physically, and at the same time it kind of creates that boundary between work and home. And I think that is also a very interesting distinction, especially now in our day and age where I myself working from home a lot, and I had that experience of going into the office the other day for a whole day, and that has been, so I go into the office once in a while for like a few hours here and there. I work from coffee shops sometimes too, but I haven't really fully spent like a whole day out working and then coming back home and just not opening my laptop. And so that day happened recently, and it was very interesting feeling, and I can't really describe it, but it just reminded me of something I used to feel years ago when I was in academia. I was in school, and I never used to do anything at home, like work related, study related. And it was just that feeling of like a clear boundary of like, well, this is home, now it's the rest time. And I think that continuity of letting go is very important psychologically, and it's very important psychologically not just in a sense of letting go of people, which I feel like is super important. This is what I started this video with a clip from one of my favorite movies actually, Celeste and Jessie Forever. It's a really beautiful, heartwarming, a little bit heartbreaking as well, but it kind of shows that you can have this amazing bond with people, but once you decide to separate or like transition into different type of relationship, like you really need to have those boundaries. You really need to let go and also grieve. And I feel like maybe that is the bigger impact of not letting go, is never fully processing and letting ourselves feel. And I also felt the impact of that recently, and I wonder like how subtle things are as well, because it seems like we are processing, and it seems like we are being said, like I already knew that my relationship is transitioning to something else, but until that door was fully closed in a sense of a clear boundary, and like that's it, like we're not going to be talking anymore, it never fully, like the emotions never fully went through. And it's a very hard, again, those things are so subtle and so difficult to explain, and that's why it's so easily overlooked. But that continuity, I feel like it's being perpetuated throughout everything we do in all of our environments, and I'm just really starting to wonder what it would be like to go a little bit back, to step a little bit back and start creating those more clearer boundaries. That, you know, because like the work and home, but not so much between those enclosures, and I'm not saying that we all should go back to the office, and I know it's a very contested topic, but just creating a more clearer boundaries between people too, and between how we choose to let go of people. And I understand that it's not something we can like simply just go back to how things were, and I don't think we could ever experience that in a way too. Experience what it's like meeting someone and knowing that you might never see them again, because you're just gonna lose contact, because you're gonna move places, and there is no cell phone number and there is no social media, and you just might never see them again. And being okay with that, and knowing that this is how things are and this is what transitions mean, is a very, very interesting concept. So on one thing, it does make our life easier, I suppose. It makes it easier in a sense that maybe it feels less risky to make those steps, to say move across the globe, right? Because in some way we are always connected, and it feels like everyone we care and love are still very much reachable. But on the flip side of that, I think we also leave in a lot of doors open that really need to be closed. And when I say need to be closed, they need to be closed for us and for other people, so we can really process what has been, so we can really process the emotions. So we can also give the time to reflect, because I think through those emotions, a lot of reflection comes. The kind of reflection that I don't think we will do if things just remain the way they are. And I mean that specifically, of course, to relationships or even situations, like even, like leaving a job. I'm realizing how much, emotions I had coming up, and I have coming up every time I'm thinking of changing a job or transitioning into a different job. And those emotions that it seems like they're always there, close to the surface, but they never fully come up and let themselves be known until you're making that transition and closing the door. But I think there is also something very important about closing the door on a spiritual level, and I think this is what I'm gonna probably finish this video with, is around the idea of letting go with grace. And I think I haven't been able to do that myself in many contexts in my life, because some of transitions were really abrupt, and some of the transitions were unexpected, and some of them were difficult. Some of them were easy because it felt like I was making that choice, and some of them felt like I was at the mercy of life's choice or somebody else's choice, right? But I think what I came to realize is that whenever we close a door, another one opens, and as cliche as it might sound, it's really true. On an energetic level, we are letting go of that energy, because we are, as energetic beings, we of course always connected to each other, and we are giving and receiving the energy from each other. But once we close that door, we are making space for something and somebody else to come into our lives. And I don't even mean it in the meant to be romantic sense. I also mean it just in a way that, like, I have an example of me working really closely. I had a really good manager at work about a year back, and I loved working with him. It was like my favorite experience at work, was working with him, and that was one of the reasons I didn't want to leave that job. But I also really wanted to transition into a different role, into a different company. There was like a lot of other reasons why I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to leave him. And then I remember being so grateful for the experience of working with him, so grateful that I got to learn from him, to have that, everyday banter kind of work experience. And I remember, like, when I was letting go of that, I realized that this is amazing, because now by leaving, somebody else would be able to receive and have what I had at that workplace with him. So in that sense, I feel like you're also making space to give your energy and to let other people receive you and all the amazing things that you have to offer, and to share certain things with you, and memories and experiences and lessons. And I think in that way, holding on, it becomes really selfish, because unconsciously, of course, sometimes we don't realize it, but we are holding on because it's just scary to let go, and the uncertainty too can be really scary. But it's necessary. Letting go really frees up space and energy for beautiful new beginnings. And I wish you to experience that in your life too. Thank you for watching.